Right then, Forest faithful, something massive is brewing at the City Ground, and it's not just the Europa League football we've been craving for 30 years. What I'm about to tell you over the next few minutes, well, it's going to shake you to your core. We've got banners causing FA investigations, we've got our gaffer's future hanging by a thread, we've got record-breaking performances, and we've got potential replacement managers already being whispered about in the corridors of power. But here's the thing that's got me absolutely buzzing. There's a Swiss magician who's just broken a record that stood since 1998, 27 years, gone in just 2 appearances. Meanwhile, our Portuguese mastermind is demanding sit-down talks with the Greek shipping magnate who owns our beloved club. And let me tell you, these aren't going to be pleasant conversations over tea and biscuits. The tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Palace fans held up banners that have landed them in hot water with the FA. Our manager's been asked directly if he'll still be here next week and couldn't give a straight answer, and there's talk of a certain Australian gaffer who led Tottenham to Europa League glory being lined up as a potential replacement. Now, here's what I need from you, Tricky Trees. Before I reveal which of our players has just made Premier League history, before I tell you exactly what Nuno said about his relationship with Marinakis that's got everyone talking, and before I explain why Crystal Palace supporters are facing an official investigation, I need you to hit that like button and tell me in the comments, do you still back Nuno Espirito Santo? Or is it time for a change at the City Ground? Because what I'm about to reveal in the first story, it involves banners, investigations, and a feud between 2 clubs that's been simmering all summer long. The FA are now officially involved, and it all centers around our very own Evangelos Marinakis. Ready for this roller coaster? Let's dive straight into the chaos. They thought they could get away with it, but the FA don't mess about when it comes to this sort of thing. What am I talking about? Well, last Sunday at Selhurst Park, Crystal Palace supporters in the notorious Holmesdale End decided to make their feelings crystal clear about one man, and that man is our owner, Evangelos Marinakis. Here's what happened. During our 1-1 draw with Palace, the home fans held aloft a graphic banner targeting the Greek shipping billionaire who owns our football club. Now, I can't describe exactly what was on that banner, but let's just say it wasn't a birthday card. The FA have confirmed they're launching an official investigation into the incident, and Palace could be facing serious consequences. But why the hatred? Why the venom directed at Marinakis? Well, it all goes back to this summer's Europa League saga that's been dragging on for months. Palace thought they'd secured their place in Europe's second-tier competition after that shock FA Cup triumph over Manchester City back in May. Brilliant result, fairy tale story, European football at Selhurst Park for the first time in years. Except there was a problem. Their previous co-owner, John Textor, held controlling interests in both Palace and Lyon. UEFA's multi-club ownership rules meant they couldn't both compete in the same European competition. And here's where it gets spicy. Reports suggest that Evangelos Marinakis himself wrote to UEFA, raising concerns about Palace's ownership structure. Our owner essentially dobbed them into the governing body, pointing out the conflict of interest that would see Palace excluded from the Europa League. The result? Palace got demoted to the Conference League, we got promoted from the Conference League to the Europa League, and Palace fans have been absolutely fuming ever since. They appealed to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, spent a fortune on legal fees, and still couldn't overturn the decision. So when we rocked up to South London last Sunday, the atmosphere was white hot. Marinakis didn't even attend the fixture, but his presence was felt everywhere. The Palace faithful made their feelings clear with that banner, and now they're facing an FA investigation that could result in hefty fines or even ground closures. The irony, while Palace fans were holding up banners about our owner, our manager was having his own crisis of confidence about his relationship with the very same man. But here's what really gets me. This whole Europa League situation has actually worked out perfectly for us. We're back in European competition for the first time since 1995, and it's partly because our owner played the game better than anyone else. So tell me, Forest fans, do you think Marinakis was right to raise those concerns with UEFA, or should he have kept quiet and let Palace keep their Europa League spot? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because what I'm about to tell you next involves the very same owner and some very public tensions with our manager, the gaffer we all love, the man who brought us back from the brink and secured European football. He's admitted his relationship with our owner has completely broken down. I'm talking about Nuno Espirito Santo, the Portuguese mastermind who transformed our fortunes last season, and the bombshell press conference that had every Forest fan questioning what the hell is going on behind the scenes at the City ground. Here's what actually happened. On Friday, before our trip to Crystal Palace, Nuno was asked directly about rumors that he was about to get the sack. His response? There's no smoke without fire. Let that sink in for a moment. Our manager, the man who guided us to 7th place and European qualification, essentially confirmed that his position is under serious threat. But it gets worse. Nuno admitted that his relationship with Evangelos Marinakis has deteriorated significantly this season. These two men, who worked together to achieve something magical last campaign, are now barely speaking to each other. The communication has completely broken down, and there are reports of serious rifts over transfer policy and the direction of the club. And it's not just Marinakis, there's also tension with Edu Gaspariu, the former Arsenal technical director who was brought in as our global head of football. Edu, the man who helped build Arsenal's recent success, is now at the center of a power struggle that could determine Nuno's future at our club. The Portugal international coach has been honest about the situation, saying, not only us three, all the club has to come together. First of all, let's try to complete our squad. This is really important in the final days of the transfer window. After these situations, what is important is Forest, not the persons. When pressed about whether he'd still be manager beyond this month, Nuno couldn't give a straight answer. I cannot answer that question. But what I know is that I'm working and trying to do my job the best I can. Of course the situation has to be solved. Now, some cynics have suggested that Nuno might be trying to engineer his own exit, pushing for a payoff by creating public drama. But he's dismissed that notion completely. Absolute nonsense. Absurd. This narrative is absurd. I love what I do. The moment I don't enjoy it, it is over. This is a man who's dealing with conflict for the first time in his managerial career. He's admitted it's affecting the squad, it's affecting the club, and it needs to be resolved urgently. The planned talks with Marinakis and Edu this week could determine everything. Whether we keep the manager who brought us European football, or whether we're looking for a new boss before the transfer window even closes. Think about it. We've got Europa League football to look forward to. We're unbeaten in the Premier League after 2 games, and yet our entire project could be derailed by personality clashes and ego battles in the boardroom. What's your take on this mess? Should Nuno compromise with Marinakis and Edu, or should he stick to his principles even if it costs him his job? Let me know in the comments, because our next story involves a player who's already making history in a Forest shirt. While chaos reigns off the pitch, on it we got a Swiss wizard who's just rewritten the record books in the most spectacular fashion. Dan Doye. Remember that name, because this 27-year-old from Basel has just achieved something that no Forest player has managed for nearly 3 decades, and he's done it in just his 2nd appearance for our club. We paid Bologna around $34 million for his services this summer after Anthony Elanga's move to Newcastle left us needing pace and creativity on the flanks. Big money for a player most Forest fans had never heard of, but sometimes the best signings are the ones that surprise you. His debut against Brentford was promising, got on the score sheet and earned praise from Nuno. But what happened at Crystal Palace on Sunday? That was something truly special. Picture the scene. We're trailing 1-0. The atmosphere is toxic. Palace fans are making their feelings about our owner very clear, and we need someone to step up and make something happen. Step forward, Dan and Doyle. 57 minutes on the clock, the game hanging in the balance, and our Swiss international produces a moment of pure magic. He cushions the ball over Will Hughes' head with the kind of touch that makes defenders look amateur, then threads the most exquisite through ball into the path of Callum Hudson-Odoi, who slots home the equalizer. But here's the truly remarkable part. With that assist, Odoi broke a record that had stood since 1998. He became the first player in 27 years to either score or assist in each of his first 2 Premier League appearances for any club. 27 years. The last man to achieve this feat was Jeff Thomas, back when mobile phones were the size of house bricks and the internet was something only computer nerds used. Think about all the world-class players who've graced the Premier League since 1998. You think about all the big money signings, all the superstars, all the wonder kids who've come and gone. None of them managed what our Swiss winger has achieved in just 180 minutes of football. His performance statistics from the Palace game tell their own story. 1 assist, 2 successful dribbles, 2 interceptions, 78.6% pass accuracy, and 2 key passes. Not spectacular numbers on their own, but when you consider he was finding his feet in a hostile environment while playing for a team under intense pressure, they become extremely impressive. Nuno was full of praise after the match, noting how Ndoye grew into the game and became increasingly influential as the minutes ticked by. The Swiss international started slowly, looked a bit overwhelmed by the pace and physicality of the Premier League, but once he found his rhythm, pure class. This is exactly the kind of signing that could define our season. We've got Europa League football to navigate, we've got a demanding Premier League campaign, and we need players who can make the difference in crucial moments. Ndoye has already proven he's got that special quality, that ability to create something from nothing when the team needs it most. The question now is whether he can maintain this incredible start and establish himself as one of the Premier League's most exciting wingers. If he can keep producing moments like that assist against Palace, we might just have found ourselves a genuine game changer. What did you think of Ndoye's performance? Can he keep this record-breaking form going throughout the season? Let me know your thoughts, because what I'm about to tell you next could determine whether he'll be playing for the same manager come September. The moment of truth is coming now, and it could determine the entire future of our football club. After days of speculation, rumors, and public admissions about broken relationships, Nuno Espirito Santo has confirmed he'll be sitting down with Evangelos Marinakis and Edu Gaspar this week for what could be the most important conversations in recent Forest history. These aren't going to be pleasant chats over coffee and biscuits. These are make or break discussions that will decide whether the man who brought us European football stays at the City ground or whether we're looking for a new manager before the transfer window even closes. Here's what Nuno said after our draw at Palace. We are going to have them. Talks. We must. What I think is we need to have these conversations, and we are going to have them. This is what I think is more important than anything. The players need it, the squad needs it, the club needs it, we need it. The desperation in those words is palpable. This is a manager who's reached breaking point, who's publicly admitted that communication has completely collapsed between him and the 2 most important decision makers at our club. But he's also a man who genuinely believes the situation can be salvaged if everyone puts Forest first. The core issues? Transfer policy, squad planning, and fundamental disagreements about the direction of the club. Nuno wants certain players. Marinakis and Edu have different ideas. Nuno has his tactical philosophy. They want him to adapt to players he doesn't rate. It's a classic power struggle between a head coach who thinks he knows best and executives who control the purse strings. But here's what's really eating away at the Portuguese manager. He's never faced anything like this in his entire career. At Wolves, at Tottenham, even during his difficult spells, he's never had to deal with such public speculation about his job security. He's admitted it's not helpful, that it's affecting the players, and that harmony needs to be restored urgently. This is the first time in my career I am facing this situation and being asked these things. It is not helpful, but I believe conflict doesn't work out. We have to create harmony, he explained after the Palace game. The timing couldn't be worse. We've got a crucial transfer window to complete, Europa League preparations to finalize, and a Premier League campaign that started brilliantly. All of this success, all of this progress could be derailed by personality clashes and ego battles behind the scenes. Nuno's made it clear he's not trying to engineer his own exit. He wants to stay. He wants to fight for the club. But he also needs assurances that he'll be supported in his decisions. The talks with Marinakis and Edu will determine whether those assurances are forthcoming or whether our owner has already made up his mind about a change. Everybody wants the best for Forest. Me first. All the club wants the best for Forest. Nuno insisted. But sometimes wanting the best isn't enough if you can't agree on what the best actually looks like. The players are watching, the fans are waiting, and the entire football world is speculating about what happens next. Will these talks result in a renewed commitment to work together? Will compromises be reached on both sides? Or will we be saying goodbye to the manager who delivered our dreams and welcoming someone new to guide us through our European adventure? One thing's for certain. By the end of this week, we'll know whether Nuno Espirito Santo has a future at the City Ground or whether the rumor mill about potential replacements is about to shift into overdrive. Do you think these talks can heal the rift? Or is it already too late for Nuno and Marinakis to rebuild their relationship? Your thoughts could be crucial here. And speaking of potential replacements, there's an Australian manager with Greek heritage who's already being whispered about in the corridors of power at the City Ground. Postecoglou, the man who guided Tottenham to Europa League glory just 2 months ago before parting ways with the North London club in June. The proud Greek Australian whose tactical philosophy and attacking style could be exactly what Evangelos Marinakis has in mind for the next phase of our European journey. Now, before anyone gets carried away, these are rumors, speculation, whispers in the wind. But when you start connecting the dots, a fascinating picture emerges that could explain why our owner might be losing patience with Nuno Espirito Santo. Here's what we know. Postecoglou was sacked by Spurs despite delivering European success. That Europa League triumph made him the first manager of Greek heritage to win the competition. And guess who was there to personally present him with a special award in July? Evangelos Marinakis himself. Our owner, the proud Greek shipping magnate, honoring the Greek-Australian coach who just conquered Europe. The connection runs deeper than just shared heritage. Marinakis values attacking football, European success, and managers who understand the pressures of big clubs with demanding supporters. Postecoglou ticks every single box. His high-energy front-foot style of play would suit our Europa League ambitions perfectly, and his experience of managing in multiple countries makes him an attractive option for an owner with international business interests. But here's where it gets really interesting. While Nuno has been publicly discussing his deteriorating relationship with Marinakis, Postecoglou has been quietly available since leaving Tottenham. No club has moved for him yet, despite his recent European success, which suggests he might be waiting for the right opportunity. Could that opportunity be brewing at the City Ground? The timing would make sense from Marinakis' perspective. If these crucial talks with Nuno don't produce the harmony and compliance he's looking for, having a proven alternative already identified would be smart business. Postecoglou wouldn't need time to adapt to European competition. He's got experience managing big personalities, and his Greek connections would certainly appeal to our owner's sense of cultural pride. From a tactical standpoint, the Australian would bring a completely different philosophy to Forest. Where Nuno prefers defensive solidity and counter-attacking football, Postecoglou believes in dominating possession, pressing high up the pitch, and overwhelming opponents with relentless attacking waves. It's a style that could suit players like Morgan Gibbs-White, Callum Hudson-Odoi, and our new signing Dan Ndoye perfectly. The question is whether Forest fans would embrace such a dramatic change in approach. Nuno gave us European football. Nuno guided us to our highest Premier League finish in decades. Nuno restored pride to the City Ground. Replacing him with anyone, even a Europa League winner like Postecoglou, would be a massive gamble. But football is a results business, and if Marinakis genuinely believes that Postecoglou can take us to the next level in European competition, sentiment might not be enough to save Nuno's job. The Greek owner has shown before that he's not afraid to make bold decisions when he thinks they'll benefit his football clubs. So we're left with this fascinating scenario: a Portuguese manager fighting for his future, a Greek owner weighing up his options, and an Australian coach with Greek heritage potentially waiting in the wings. It's like a football soap opera written by someone with a very twisted sense of humor. The next few days will tell us everything we need to know about the future direction of our football club. Will Nuno and Marinakis find common ground and move forward together? Or will we be welcoming Postecoglou to the City Ground as our new manager before September arrives? What do you think about the possibility of Postecoglou replacing Nuno? Would you welcome the change or stick with the man who brought us back to Europe? And what does this whole situation tell us about modern football, where success on the pitch doesn't always guarantee job security? Hit that like button if this story has got you thinking. Subscribe for more Forest content that cuts through the noise, and let me know in the comments. Who would you rather have leading us into the Europa League? Nuno Espirito Santo or Ange Postecoglou? Because one thing's for certain, whatever happens this week at the City Ground is going to shape our entire season and possibly our entire future as a football club.